Rain slid down the windows of Harrington Global's Manhattan Tower like streaks of liquid steel. In the boardroom on the 58th floor, a dozen executives spoke over one another, their words rising and colliding like waves. Clara Harrington sat in the corner, head bent over a sketchbook, pretending not to notice. She had been born deaf and had learned to live inside a quiet bubble, even when noise swirled around her. She was 16 and the daughter of Avery Harrington, a billionaire whose name appeared in financial magazines and on building plaques. He was decisive, brilliant, and perpetually distracted. Clara's mother had died when she was 10. Her father filled the space with meetings, mergers, and deals. He loved her, she supposed, but he rarely spoke her language, the literal one. Nobody in his company did. When her father held marathon meetings, Clara waited for hours on expensive chairs in sleek hallways. Assistants walked past with folders and coffee trays, avoiding eye contact. She sketched birds, trees, faces. It made the silence feel like her own. On one of those days she noticed the janitor. He was middle-aged, with dark hair flecked with gray and a calm way of moving. He mopped the marble floors like it mattered, slow and steady, eyes thoughtful. Their gazes met briefly, he smiled. She gave a quick nod and looked away. His name was Marco Alvarez. Before life knocked him sideways he had been a teacher's aide working with deaf children. He still knew American Sign Language. When he saw the billionaire's daughter sitting alone, something inside him stirred, recognition, empathy. The next week Clara sat again outside the boardroom, sketchbook in her lap. Marco approached slowly and signed, "Hello. Are you okay?" She froze. Hardly anyone outside her school life used ASL. Then she signed back, "You know sign language?" "Enough to say hi," he signed, smiling. She felt her shoulders relax. "I'm bored," she signed. "Meetings. Always meetings." "I know the feeling," he signed back. That small exchange cracked something open. For the first time in weeks she felt visible. They spoke for 5 minutes. She showed him her drawing of a bird mid-flight. He said he liked how the wings looked like freedom. She laughed silently. Her father came out of the meeting on the phone, barely noticing. Clara tucked the sketchbook under her arm and slipped away. From then on, each time she arrived Marco signed hello. He learned she loved birds because they lived in a world of sound but also beyond it. She learned he had a teenage son who played soccer. She asked why he worked as a janitor when he clearly knew more. He signed simply, "Life happened. But I still like helping people." Weeks passed. Clara began to look for him when she came upstairs. He was the only person who spoke her language. One Thursday evening the tension around the company's big merger was palpable. Clara sat outside the boardroom as usual. An executive barked at her, gesturing for her to move. She tried to indicate she was waiting for her father, but he waved her off and walked away. Her eyes stung. Then Marco appeared, setting down his mop. He crouched so their eyes met and signed, "You okay?" She shook her head. "I hate it here. Breathe. This place can't define you," he signed back. She wiped her eyes. Inside the boardroom voices rose, and moments later her father stormed out, face tight, telling her he'd meet her later. Dinner was cancelled again. That night she sat in her penthouse drawing birds in cages. The next morning was the merger signing, cameras, shareholders, and VIPs. Clara sat in the lounge outside the boardroom, sketching nervously. Marco buffed the floors nearby. Through the glass wall he saw Avery Harrington arguing, pointing at charts. The billionaire's hand trembled as he signed papers. Clara noticed too. She tapped on the glass, but nobody responded. Minutes later Avery stumbled out, pale, clutching his temple. Clara jumped up, signing frantically. He muttered, "I'm fine," but his knees buckled. Marco rushed over and caught him under the arm. "Sir, you need to sit." Clara's eyes went wide. She signed to Marco, "What's wrong?" "Call 911 now," Marco signed back to her, then told the billionaire to stay calm. Paramedics arrived quickly. Clara's hands moved in a blur, explaining what she'd seen. Marco translated her signs into speech for the medics. They took Avery to the hospital. It was a minor stroke, caught early, but a warning. In the hospital room, Avery woke to see his daughter signing rapidly with Marco interpreting. He blinked. "You sign?" he asked Marco weakly. "Enough to help," Marco said. Something flickered in the billionaire's eyes, gratitude, but also shame. In the days that followed, Avery saw his daughter communicating effortlessly with Marco. He realized how much of her world he'd left untranslated. One evening, still pale from recovery, he asked Marco to come to his office. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "And you've been talking to Clara." "Really talking?" "She's a great kid," Marco replied. "I've been a terrible father," Avery whispered. "I never even learned her language." Marco stayed silent. "Teach me," Avery said finally. "Teach me to sign. I'll pay you double." Marco smiled faintly. "I'll teach you. But not for money. For her." Avery nodded slowly. 3 nights a week Marco began tutoring the billionaire. At first Avery's hands were clumsy, his expression stiff. But gradually he improved. He practiced between meetings. Clara watched with guarded hope. One spring afternoon Avery surprised her by signing, "I'm proud of you." Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time she felt his words land directly, without a translator, without a gap. That summer Avery launched a new foundation focused on accessibility and inclusion in corporate spaces, interpreters, training, and technology. Marco became its first outreach director, moving from janitorial work to advocacy. At the launch event cameras flashed. Reporters asked Avery what had changed. "A janitor reminded me that humanity comes before hierarchy," he said. "And my daughter reminded me of the power of being heard, even without sound." Across the stage Clara signed thank you to Marco. He signed back always. Outside, through the tall windows, a bird soared across the sky, silent wings spread wide.